Welcome everybody. I just want to say you'll have to excuse my cough a little bit that I'm going to be doing throughout these 2 hours because the neighbors in my neighborhood are crazy about planting new plants. So I haven't had allergies for 5 years that I've lived in this neighborhood, but this year I guess everybody decided to plant weird things like the Japanese maple that only blooms once every 5 years or so. So now I have allergies and I don't know from what. And my doctor said that based on all the plantation in my neighborhood, he won't even try to figure it out. So I'm stuck with this now. So I'm on Zyrtec D. Let's see how well this goes. But today we're going to talk about something that really, I've gone to CLEs over the past 10 years many times, and I've never heard anyone talk about what I'm going to be talking about today. And this is part of the reason why I'm doing this. I've heard CLEs about CPLR, I've heard CLEs about the federal practice, different practice areas of law, but never really what it's like to be a lawyer and what it's like to succeed as a lawyer. What is it that you guys have to do? What do we have to do as lawyers to really have successful careers and not hate our jobs and our lives as we progress through our career paths? And there's really not much available out there. There are a bunch of lawyers who have CDs and DVDs out telling you, buy this and we'll open up secrets to happiness as a lawyer. But nothing really concrete at a CLE level. And I thought it would be very beneficial if someone ever talked to me or spoke to me about my career path and what I could do. So this is what I decided to do today with you guys and talk a little bit about. Hopefully, what we'll talk about today will help you as a lawyer and on your career path to success, and you will love your job as opposed to being one of those burnout lawyers that hates it and looks for something else to do. All right, so what is the business of being a lawyer? And this is very, I guess it's not a new concept, but it is something that's not widely talked about. But today, in the legal market today, and I, by running this network called Libra Network, I associate regularly with thousands of lawyers, not just from New York, but from different states. And what I hear about the changing legal industry and the legal environment is that it's very different from the way things were in the past. And the one thing you guys have to understand is being a lawyer today requires being good in business. Before, lawyers were able to really write out on their skills and on their experience. So if you had a lawyer who was, a great trial attorney, could win cases, or a criminal defense lawyer who could defend his clients and win, usually that was enough. These lawyers really didn't have to think too much about their careers because they were super skilled and everybody wanted them in their firms and they could make tons of money and be super successful. Today, that dynamic has changed, and part of it is because the industry is really flooded with attorneys and there's not enough demand. So you're talking about a legal industry where there are lots and lots of talented, skilled lawyers, but there's not enough demand and not enough work for these lawyers to really show their skills. So you have to understand now that it's not just about your skills and experience, it's not just about being a superstar litigator in your firm. It's a business. You have to apply business sense to your career in order to be successful. And this is just what I said before. It's having legal skills of a certain type isn't really going to cut it anymore. You really have to apply and do more. You have to apply basic business principles to your legal career, just like you would if you opened up a business. So you have to ask yourself, do I have a plan? Do I have a business plan for myself, for my career? I know that I just graduated law school. I know where I'm starting, but where do you want to end up? I mean, how is this going to look at the end for you? Do you want to be a big partner and have a big corner office on Wall Street? Is that what you want? Do you want to be a solo practitioner with a small shop and be a community attorney so everybody knows who you are? Maybe there's something else for you. Do you want to be teaching in the law school? Do you want to be in the education area? Maybe at the end you want to use your law degree for something else. There has to be a plan. You go into this without any kind of a plan and you're going to find yourself lost in this ocean of other legal professionals, and that's not something that's really going to help you. The business of law is learning and understanding how to manage your legal career as a business. So you're going to look at everything you've done in law school and passing the bar as your investment into a business. And then your job is to make this business grow and make it successful. And you need to apply the same principles as you would apply if you opened up a bagel store. And that's, you know, it's a unique way of thinking about it. It's maybe a naive way of thinking about it. But in a lot of, you know, going through 10 years of practice, that's what I've realized is that those lawyers who applied those basic principles to their careers became really successful. And those who just kind of traveled along and we're hoping for something, for the legal industry to present something to them, didn't really make it very far. So, and I'd like for you guys to really travel the road of being successful and being happy. So what is it about lawyers saying, well, I love being a lawyer, but hate practicing law? You know, and we hear this all the time. I talk to many people and they say, you know, I loved going to law school, it was great. I don't regret becoming a lawyer, but I absolutely hate practicing law. It is the worst thing in the world. I'm not happy, I'm working long hours, I don't make enough money, I'm not getting anywhere with my firm. You know, these are all things we hear every day. I will never make partner. My clients drain the life out of me, and I'm the first person to tell you I felt that way many, many times. And you know, I still do till today, but I've learned to embrace it and find happiness in them draining the life out of me. So, but these are the things you hear. You know, people always use the excuse that, well, there's too many lawyers around, and I can't find a job, and I can't move forward because there's so many other people in line. You know, people saying things like, well, you know, I have to commit crime to be successful as a lawyer, right? I have to do something. I have to sell my soul to the devil. Otherwise, I'm just going to be a regular guy in the law firm writing motions, and, you know, then they'll send me to do PC conference. Then I'll graduate in 25 years to maybe doing a trial. You know, I'll be making by that time $120,000, of which the taxes are going to take whatever 45%. I'll still be living in my East Village apartment with a cat. You know, so this is what people say all the time. This is unfortunately the general realm of lawyers out there who say these things. We have to figure out what's missing, right? So what happened to all these people that were all excited about going to law school, telling all their friends, I'm going to be a lawyer, you know, saying, oh, I'm going to be like Tom Cruise on TV and A Few Good Men. That's going to be me. I'm going to be that polished guy with a Mercedes or a Ferrari. I'm going to be successful. What happens to them that 10, 15 years down the road, they're all sitting around in the PC conference part reading books for 2 hours and waiting to adjourn their cases, and this is their life. You know, why is it that they're not happy? And so for me, when I look at things, the first thing I think is what's missing is that there were no real goals or objectives that these people set for themselves. So when they graduated law school, they just kind of, you know, jumped in this I don't know, I remember this scene from Finding Nemo where there's a whole bunch of turtles and they're all swimming and they're all going in this current, and just so many of them, and they're all following the current. Nobody knows where they're going, and they're like, you know, the main turtle there is like, whatever, we follow the current and this is where we go. And you know, so this is what happens to a lot of lawyers. There's no set goals, objectives. They all follow the current, and then when they don't like following the current, they start bad-mouthing the profession, and they say, it sucks being a lawyer. This current really sucks. Well, guess what? Who took the current in the first place? Who decided not to look left or right, and who decided that this is your current? You did. So you can't really complain when the current takes you places where you don't want to go. The other set of people have unrealistic expectations. So these are people who think they're going to graduate law school because they got an A in their, you know, criminal law section of the law school, in their criminal law class, or their you know, corporate law class. They got an A. They think that this is now going to make them God's gift to corporate law. These people now are going to be, we're all going to have to pray because they're here. And what they're going to do is, in the first 5 years of their practice, they're going to immediately make partner in their firm because they're brilliant and because everyone else is not. So they want to make partner in 5 years, they want to buy a house, they want to, in 10 years, they already want to be superstars, they want to be in super lawyers, they want to have an expensive car and have a house in the Hamptons. And then some of them actually think this is all going to be possible doing areas like immigration law, right? So, there's a reality check that comes with that because certain practice areas have very different paths from each other. So a lawyer who works for a big law firm in mergers and acquisitions is going to have a very different career path than a solo practitioner that does landlord-tenant law in the Bronx. You have to be very realistic about what's going to happen. The next reason is for a lot of these unhappy lawyers is that the career path you choose is not in line with your personality and abilities. So we're not all created equal. We all have different things that we're good at, right? So some people are very good at public speaking, comfortable and quick on their feet, and some people are not, and they're very good behind the computer. Some of us can land clients, and they can go into an intake with a client, and they could sell the firm, and they can convince the client that this is the firm where the client belongs. Others could be brilliant attorneys, can write brilliant motions, do research, and do very well, but if you put them in a room with a person, they might be able to talk a lot about the firm and their knowledge and experience, but the client's going to walk away. So you have to pick a career path for yourself as a lawyer, the practice area and what you're going to do in line with what you're good at. You have to maximize the things that you're good at and apply them. This way you'll be successful. Wrong field of law. This is one of the most common things that you see all the time. So you get out of law school, you get a job. You get a job as an associate for a personal injury firm. You're now doing personal injury. You realize personal injury is very routine. Everything that you could think of has already been done because there's millions of cases out there. So you become part of this conveyor belt that is personal injury. So you're now part of the conveyor belt and you realize, you know what, this isn't adventurous enough for me. I'd like drama. But personal injury, if you're not trying cases, and 95% of them are usually settled, if you're not trying cases, you're probably not going to experience a lot of drama. As opposed to a matrimonial lawyer who may not be trying cases, may be handling 5 or 6 cases, but it's all out drama, right? It's like, I want to keep the dog, you keep the bird, I want to take you to court, make you cry, take away your children. You like drama, this is a place for you. You like to be part of a conveyor belt, then you need to be doing other things like personal injury. You want to work in a firm where you want to do contracts and deal with businesses and corporations, you belong in a Wall Street white shoe law firm. You have no business working for a personal injury firm. That's not going to get you where you want to be. And another reason is lack of motivation, which ties back in with the practice area. If you're in a place where you think that the work isn't really what you want to do, it doesn't motivate you, you don't care. You kind of just sit there and do your job and go home and you just talk about how you didn't get a bonus or a raise or someone else moved up, and this is your life, and you look 10, 15 years behind and this is all you've done. You're not motivated. This stuff doesn't interest you. You don't care. So can't really grow and be happy, can't really accomplish things if you really don't care. Work not challenging enough. This also happens a lot. This really doesn't have to do with motivation. It has to do with the fact that your firm is keeping you, or you're working in a place where you're doing one single task and you got so good at it, it's just not challenging enough anymore. I mean, how many motions, summary judgment motions, you're going to write? If you've written 100 of them already and you've never got to argue one in court, you're going to get bored and you're going to once again feel like this isn't what you want to do. Okay, so your legal career is a business. This, I don't know why it says part 1, but that's where we are. Approaching your legal career like you would starting a new business, and I touched on this already. In order to resolve all those issues, you need to look at your career as a business and say to yourself, now that I graduated law school, I'm going to treat my bar exam passage as a closing. Okay, so I closed on this business. I paid good money for it. Now I own it. It's mine. Now what am I going to do with it? How am I going to build this business throughout the years to make sure it's successful, to make sure it makes me money, makes me happy, and I might be personally satisfied that it helps people? How am I going to do that? Well, you're going to research the field. You need to do research and figure out which kind of business you want to be in. That's very important. You want to put some time behind this. You want to research different areas of law. You want to research different types of environments, like big law firms, mid-sized law firms, solo practices. Look at all these things and put some time behind it to research before you explore the legal industry, because there are many things. There are also things outside of practicing law that you might be interested in as well. You need to explore those as well. Lawyers do many things. There are politics, there's legal technology, many things around. Look and find, put some time behind and look and find what it is that you feel connected to. Identify a need. Look at what's missing. So in the legal industry, there's lots of things already. There are tons of personal injury lawyers, tons of immigration lawyers, corporate law firms, but there's got to be something that's not around. For example, the area of children with disabilities, there are not that many lawyers. God forbid you ever needed one, or somebody asked you for a lawyer who specifically works in the area of children with disabilities. There's probably a handful of people in New York that are really good at that stuff. There's no one there. As opposed to personal injury lawyers, well, you could just walk out of this building. By the time you get home, you'll probably find 10 on the street. So you identify something that's missing. Put together a business plan with goals and benchmarks. This is going to be critical. So you need to sit down and say, all right, so here's where I am now. Let's say I'm in my first 5 years of practicing law. Here's where I want to be. I want to become the big partner with the corner office. What is it that I'm going to need to do? What are the intermediate goals and benchmarks that I need to accomplish to get to this place? Because if you don't know what it takes to get there, how are you ever going to get there? You have no idea where to go. So you want to sit down and actually write this out and put together a business plan for your career. Because without it, it's okay to deviate, and you'll find out it's okay to change direction, but without any kind of a point where you want to go, it's very difficult to find yourself, and you'll get lost, or you'll just become part of that current that just only flows one way. Set out what you want to achieve, size and understand the competition. Understand who else is out there and who you're going up against. So if you want to be that big partner in a big corporate law firm, understand who else is aiming for that spot. How many people are in this race? What is it going to take to get there? All these things you need to understand. Use statistics and history to build yourself some realistic expectations, okay? And as a young lawyer, what most people end up doing is dreaming, which is great, and we're going to talk about that. And you never should really give up on things you're hoping to achieve, and never really give up on your dreams. However, you need to look at statistics and history. At some point you got to sit down and say, well, I'm going to keep this dream alive, but at the same time, I'd like to have something concrete in my business plan that I could realistically achieve if the dream doesn't work out and I could live with. So look at stuff, talk to other attorneys, talk to them about their career paths and what they had to do. Talk to your friends, talk to senior attorneys in your firm, and really just kind of understand what the statistics are, what the odds are of achieving your goals. So you don't have to give up even if the odds are very slim, but you need to know what the odds are. All right, so researching the legal field. This is another very, very important point. When you get out of law school, most lawyers think that they know what they want to do. And when I got out, I was on a trial team for Brooklyn Law School. We won the New York State region. We went to Chicago to compete nationally, and we lost to Harvard, which I think was fixed, but that's me. I thought when I graduated, I'm definitely going to be a trial lawyer because I'm good at this. This is what I was born to do. There's a reason why I won this competition. There's a reason why all these judges watching me said I was brilliant. So this is my destiny. I'm going to be a trial lawyer. I'm going to be that guy, Joe Pesci, and my cousin Vinny. That's going to be me. I'm going to be brilliant. So When I got out, I realized that there are many, many other things out there besides being a trial lawyer. And even being a trial lawyer is not that, it's a general comprehension of what kind of cases do I want to try. Criminal cases, injury cases, divorce cases, commercial cases. What is it that I want to litigate? So it's important to really start to research the field and identify what kind of lawyer you want to be, not just in terms of being a litigator or a transactional attorney, but what areas of law do you want to litigate? Look at the fields and look at the information. You guys have so much more with every year in terms of availability of information than we did, because internet has grown. There's so much stuff out there. Read things. Make sure you're reading valid things. You read the blogs, read about the career paths of different lawyers so you know. So it helps you to identify where is it that you want to go. Compare the lifestyles of different lawyers. Very, very important. Lawyers all have different lifestyles depending on what they do. So a mass torts lawyer who works for a national mass torts firm is probably going to make anywhere north of $5 million a year. That guy, a partner in a mass torts firm that litigates drug cases like Vioxx, Avandia, these guys make a lot of money. They're all very, very wealthy if they're successful, if they're partners. Their lifestyle is going to be very different from a lawyer who's a public defender in Queens, okay? It's a night and day. So if you want to be a lawyer living a lifestyle of a mass torts lawyer, do not put yourself on a course that's not going to get you there. Understand that this is, the odds of that happening in an area like, a much smaller area like landlord-tenant law or immigration law, you're going to have a hard time because it's just statistically and historically not there. So the lifestyle is important. If you want to start a family, you're expecting to start a family soon, you have a family today, and you see yourself spending time home with your kids, being there for them. Do not think that you're going to go work for a white shoe mergers and acquisition department because they work on European time. It's not that they want to keep you there because they want to make you a slave, although some will disagree. But they just happen to work on European time. You're not going to be home normal hours. Your kid is done with school at 2 o'clock. You're never going to see that. You're never going to be the dad or a mom that could pick up your kid from school at 2 p.m. and leave your job and not come back if you're working for a big corporate firm. So lifestyle is key. Pick what works for you. There's no right or wrong or good or bad. You just have to pick something that you could live with, that this is your thing and it works for you. I have friends who are in all kinds of areas of law, and when we have different lifestyles. I mean, I don't work weekends. I never have since I started practicing law. I never worked Saturdays or Sundays as a rule. And some of my friends don't know what that is because they work Saturday and Sunday as a rule. So to them, our lifestyles are very different. They wouldn't be able to teach a class today because they're at work. And they love their jobs and they love the benefits that they reap from their jobs, but our lifestyles are not the same. I couldn't do what they do, and they probably wouldn't be able to live my lifestyle either. Litigation versus transactional, very, very big difference, okay? So most lawyers kind of break into these two categories. Litigation and transactional lawyers are very different, okay? They're different in their personalities, they're different in the way they approach things, and again, these areas differ in terms of your time commitments and what kind of work you do. Transactional law tends to be less people intensive, so you're not dealing with people as much, you're dealing mostly with documents, you're dealing with transactions, you're filing things, reviewing things, drafting things. You're probably not going to deal with everyday people walking into your office and crying about something happening in their life. This is going to be missing. Litigation lawyers, whether they're litigating torts or whether they're litigating divorce cases, they tend to deal with real people and clients. They have the human factor present. Some of us are good with people and we like when people come to us for help and we embrace that. Some of us get very annoyed and we want to just get back in our office and do work. So this is an important difference that you have to find and understand. Law firm culture. Solo firm, small firm, medium, and large. Every single time you make a transition from one firm to another based on size, you're living a different life. They're each one is different. I had throughout the 10 years I've worked for the large firm, I've never worked for medium. I went from large to small to solo. But I could tell you my experiences in each firm, my life was completely different. So you have to look at the culture of these firms and say, well, what makes me happy? What kind of a culture works for me? The sooner you figure that out, the sooner you figure out where you want to be in terms of all these things, the better you're going to be positioned on your path to accomplish real things. So, rainmaker versus practitioner, another difference. Some lawyers are very good lawyers. They love practicing law. There's another set of lawyers who are business side of law. They like bringing in business. They like growing firms and building and merging and unmerging. And this is their responsibility. They embrace it. But then there are those who really don't want to deal with any of that. They want to go to court and they want to pick jurors every day. It makes them happy. It makes them tick. Okay, which guy are you or a girl? It's another thing to figure out before you go on this journey. Time commitment, very critical. Be realistic. Okay, if you're gonna become an associate and if you're gonna work for a firm, that's one path. If you're gonna be a solo practitioner, that's a different path. Your time commitment for each is gonna vary. Look at your life and what you want to do besides your legal career. If you're starting a family, if you have other commitments, whatever the case may be. The math has to work, okay? If you're gonna start your own practice, you're gonna work 24/7. By that I mean you don't have to stay at your office, but your mind and your brain is constantly going to be on your practice. That's just what it is. It becomes your child and you could never stop thinking about it. You're always thinking, okay? Very different from being an associate where you can kind of maybe disassociate yourself when you leave your firm from what's happening there because it's not your firm. And you can leave at 6, 7, 8 o'clock, whenever you leave. There's that disassociation that happens. You're not sitting up at night, in the middle of the night thinking of how am I going to improve my solo practice. So this time commitment isn't just physical time, it's your mental time as well. It's the time that your brain is going to be focused on whatever is going to be related to your job as opposed to your personal life. Practice areas. Again, we talked about this. You're going to see this a lot. Research different practice areas. What are they all about? What is the lifestyle like? What kind of people do these practice areas help? Maybe you'll feel something, you'll identify with something personally. You might have been kicked out of your apartment when you were in college, and now you want to learn landlord-tenant law to help other people so they don't get kicked out. You might feel it right there, and it might click for you. Financial considerations. Again, I come back to this. In law school, everything is in theory. Everybody tells you, as lawyers, we're going to help people, we're going to help the world, we're going to help everyone. This is our destiny and our job. At the end of the day, we all have to pay bills. So when you're on this path of research what your financial life is going to be like if you take one path as opposed to the other one, okay? Because if you think that, okay, I'm going to take this job, it pays $30,000 a year, I'm going to stay at this job because I really love the practice area, and this is what I'm going to do, you have to be careful. You have to make sure that this is the position you can afford. Because you don't want to be the guy who has a job that you love, but you really can't pay your rent and your personal circumstances are so dire that now you start hating the job because it's not paying you enough money. Be realistic. If you're going into this, I have a friend who's a public defender. He defends a lot of the death penalty cases and death row cases in Missouri. So, they pay him $27,000, and he is very, very poor. By New York City standards, I think he'd be under poverty guidelines, okay? But that doesn't matter. He lives the life that he lives, and to him, his work, the fact that he believes in what he does, means more than giving him a $100,000 check. He doesn't care. The whole financial side, driving a Mercedes, doesn't faze him at all. That part of living doesn't exist for him. What exists is his life, his job that he's fully dedicated to. So when he comes over to my house and he says, oh, you know, none of these things impress him at all. I have some people that come and they say, oh, you have this, you have that. Okay, and they get impressed. This guy doesn't even care. He doesn't, none of these things even occur to him because he's so focused on his own career path. And this is what you want. You don't need to kill yourself trying to become the multi-million-dollar mass torts lawyer. You just need to be able to financially, realistically afford whatever path you're taking. Identify and need how your career as a lawyer will stand out. What is it that you guys are going to do? And what is it that you have that makes your legal career different from everyone else in this room? You got to know what your edge is. You got to know what is it about you that stands out. Because what most people don't realize, when you're in law school with your friends, there's probably 400 other students. And you know a lot of them, and you kind of think, oh, there's a lot of law students graduating with me. What you don't know is that there's 400 people graduating from 10, 12 other schools around this area, okay? So that makes thousands of lawyers out there, thousands and thousands, okay? So just when you thought you got A+ on your contracts class and now you should go and work and do contracts work, well, you don't realize a lot of people got good grades in contracts, or a lot of people passed the bar. Some don't pass, but a lot did. So now there's lots and lots of people out there, and believe it or not, from an employer perspective, when I look at resumes, when I post for a job posting in my firm or somebody asks me to post for them, you know, we get thousands of resumes. They're all the same. Everyone worked somewhere. Everyone was a clerk somewhere. Everyone did something, wrote something. There's nothing that stands out, just names and addresses where people live. That's the only thing that really changes. Because law school grades, we don't, you know, outside of the big corporate firms, we don't really care about your school rank or whatever it is when we hire. So we want to see something as employers. We want to see skills. We want to see what makes you different. I had a guy who called me on the phone, said, he called my office, I wouldn't pick up the phone. He called again. Called 2, 3 times, and finally I said, you know, I don't understand what he wants from me. He's stalking me. I don't know if I have to get security or something. What do I do? Well, I'll just pick up the phone and see what he wants. Face him, you know, maybe hear his voice and see if he's really psychotic. Maybe I should be concerned. Pick up the phone. He says, listen, I know you don't pick up the phone. I applied for a job with your firm. I only need 3 minutes of your time. I will only take 3 minutes. This is all I want to say. I really want to work for you. I think your practice area really interests me, and I'm not going to bother you again, but I just wanted you to know that personally. I wanted to tell you this over the phone as opposed to the resume that you might have on your desk, that I really want this job, and I'll bust my behind if you give me a chance. And then he hung up the phone. So I thought this was very strange, but I'm here talking about this guy today. Why? Because he stood out. Because out of all those resumes, he stood out. He did something that's so simple. He just picked up the phone and said a crazy thing over the phone to me, right? And I live in New York. Nothing impresses me. I didn't think it was so crazy. But to me, he stood out. This is the guy. I called him back and I said, come on in because you're crazy. And I want to see you personally. I want to see you tell me this. He came in. He ended up working for me for 2 years, left and started his own firm. Now, again, what does this show? Stand out. Figure out what is it about you that makes a difference, what makes you different from everyone in this room today. Do you have an edge? So when I graduated, I also didn't really, well, I thought I had an edge. Right? I thought I was going to be a really good trial lawyer and all these other things that everybody else thinks. But there was something else I had that I knew that most people didn't have. I spoke fluently a second language, which is Russian. I didn't know what I was going to do with that, but I knew that when I graduate from my class, there's probably another 5, 10 kids that speak Russian. So what can I do with that? Because that's something I have, and a lot of them don't. So it could be that your mom or dad knows someone else that could help you. It's just something. Find that little edge that you have because it's important. Figure out what other people don't have. okay? Another important, it's not just about what you have and your edge. What are the other people missing? What are the other lawyers around you? What is it that they don't have? What kind of a skill? You know, maybe they don't have a drive or motivation. Maybe they didn't hear this lecture today, so they don't know what they're doing. But find out what it is today that they don't have. Identify a problem in the field and find a solution, right? So you might look at other associates. You're working in the firm. You might look at other associates in the firm, and you see that they're lazy. They don't want to do anything. They just want to sit and do office politics and complain and talk about other stuff. And, you know, identify a problem, find a solution. So you say to yourself, right, you know what? Maybe I'm caught in this a little bit, but I'm not going to go down this way because this is a problem. You know, put yourself in the driver's seat if you're the boss of that firm. If you're the senior partner, that's your firm. So look at yourself, and if you see that, you know what, do I really want attorneys in my firm who are disinterested and are just there from every paycheck to paycheck every 2 weeks? And if the answer is no, say, you know what, I'm not going to do that because that's a problem, all right? I'm going to do something completely different. I'm not going to be that guy who's disinterested. I'm either going to become interested or go do something else. Business plan for your legal career. Where do you start, okay? Figure out where you start. Regardless of where you guys are now in your legal career, pick a starting point. When are you going to start this? Maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you still need to work that job and kind of get on your feet a little bit. But pick a starting point when you're going to start doing this. When you're going to start building you as opposed to making money for the firm where you're working at if you're an associate. So pick that point. Pick a point where you want to finish, okay? Visualize 40, 50 years forward, okay? It's a hard thing to do, but just look at yourself and see what you want to do. Do you want to be the guy retired in Aruba, you know, having a home in Aruba, having a home in New York? Well, guess what? You're going to need to align your business plan, the rest of it in the middle, the hard part, to get you there. So that's what it is for me, you know. So for me, I know where I'd like to end up, you know. I always knew after the first 5 years, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be practicing law, going to court every day when I'm 65, 70 years old. I just don't want that. I'd like to be the guy in Aruba, retired, with a firm that I travel to back and forth and visit and make sure things are right, and I can log onto my computer and get reports from everyone. I'd like to have partners and run a law firm. That's my path. So now, whether this is your path or not makes no difference. You could pick a different path. Your path might be, you might be the guy who everybody's gonna remember as the elite attorney in your field. You'll be teaching other lawyers about immigration or divorce or whatever it is you pick to do. You want to leave that behind as an elite lawyer. You might want to argue before the Supreme Court. Maybe that's what you want to do. This is where you see it. But you need to see the finish. You need to sit down and really look where the finish line is, because if you don't know where you want to end up, you're just going to, again, follow these different paths, and you're probably not going to end up where you like. What are you going to need to do to get there? All right. So if my idea is to get there, I know in order for me to retire in Aruba and do that fairly early, I need to build a law firm. And I need to build a law firm that brings enough income and has enough staff and enough partners and enough business going through that I can afford to do that. Because it's not a cheap island to travel to. So I know that this is I need to build this law firm. I have time to do it, and I'm going to pace myself and figure out what needs to be done. So whether your career path makes you a great trial lawyer or whatever it is you decide to do, map out the way to get there. What's the upside and downside professionally and personally of your plan, okay? So the downside professionally of each plan is that, you have to figure out what is the upside, what's the downside. So if you see yourself as a teacher in the future, if you want to be the elite attorney in your practice area, there's an upside. You're going to be an authority figure. People are going to read books about you probably one day, right? But the downside is, you might need to put in so much time. The odds might be really slim of this happening. So there's ups and downs, there's an upside and a downside. Personally, what is it going to take to get there? Are you going to have to sacrifice your family, your personal life? What is it going to do? Set up clear benchmarks and intermediate goals. So once you already pick this path, once you say to yourself, I know where I start and where I want to get, now you got to have benchmarks. So 5 years from now, I got to be here. Another 3 years, I got to be here. Another 5 years, I got to be here. Look at your plan and see if it's personally and financially viable, right? So if you, again, if you pick a direction that isn't realistically going to jive well with your personality, it's probably not going to work. You're going to have a very hard time achieving that. Financially as well, pick a direction that you can live with. You know, if you're going to decide to have 7 children and live on a $30,000 salary, that's not going to work very well. So you're going to have to make adjustments in your, either don't have 7 children or pick a different plan. But again, it's critical that you pick something that works. Know and understand your competition. Again, who are you competing against in this journey of yours? You know, what advantages do people have over you? How will you overcome those advantages? You know, there are going to be people out there who have connections. Mommy, daddy have connections. You know, you got to work with that. There are going to be people out there who have more money than you to start with. You know, they have the financial backing of someone. So you may not have that, so those people can take more liberties with their careers, but you may not have that. How are you going to overcome those things? What are you going to do? Use research to set out goals and expectations that are realistic. Again, we come back to the fact that whatever you decide in this business plan, all these things have to be realistically accomplished. You have to be able to accomplish those things and see yourself actually doing it. You know, and this is, I don't know where I got this line. I'm not sure if I stole it from someone else, so I disclaim any kind of liability if I did, and let the credit go to whoever said this. But you should never stop dreaming as long as you can afford being awake, right? So that's what I was talking about before. Dream, you know, if you want that big corner office in the big shoe, white shoe law firm, yes, you could do it. There's nothing out here that could stop you from doing that, really. I mean, I've seen these success stories happen every day. So just don't give up on that. All right? So the secret password to your happiness is OPE147. OPE147. All right. So yeah, don't stop dreaming. Don't ever let anybody stop you either and tell you can't do certain things. Don't let the odds dissuade you from doing that. But again, you know, be realistic about the journey and what it's going to take to get there. And use statistics and history to better understand your direction. So do research. Don't just say, I want to, you know, you graduated in the middle of your class, you didn't get a summer associate position with a big law firm, but you see yourself as a partner in 7 years in Skadden, all right? So let's look at the statistics and history, and let's look at Skadden and how many of their partners actually traveled this path. So you're probably going to find it's probably something like negative 30 people, all right? So if that's the case, can it be done? Yes, but you got to be realistic and say to yourself, well, absent some magic, you know, some fairy sprinkling some magic law dust on you and sprinkling something all over the partners in Skadden that are going to let you do this, this is probably not going to happen. So, you know, use history to guide you. All right. So now you're going to go back and you're going to basically do some yoga over all this information I gave you and meditate over it and find it in yourself, what you want to do some self-searching. And when you're done, when you have a plan, you're going to have the beginning, the end, and the middle. You have looked at all these factors already, like your personal factors, your financial factors. You've picked a direction. Now, what are we going to do about getting there, all right? What is it that you guys need to do during your career paths to get to these final places that you've chosen for yourself? And we'll start with associates, because most of you are probably going to start at this level as associates after you graduate law school or the first 5 to 10 years. So, and then we're going to move to solo practitioners and solo practice. So as an associate, what is it that you have to do? What is your job as an associate? The first part is learning skills, okay? Your first duty is to learn skills. If you're going to be a divorce lawyer learn how to write divorce motions, learn how to handle divorce clients. You need skills. You can't go anywhere on your career path as a lawyer without skills. This is still true, and this is something that the legal industry really hasn't changed, and the technology hasn't changed, and probably never will. You still need to learn legal skills, lawyer skills, and as an associate, this is your primary focus. This is what you want to do. But learning skills is not the same thing as having experience. So you might have watched your senior attorneys try cases, you might have watched them argue motions, but you haven't done it yourself. You might have written them, so you might already have the skills necessary to argue a case, to do a trial, to pick a jury, but you haven't done it. So the second thing you have to do is gain experience, because this part of you, this stage of your legal career as an associate is specifically designed for this. Because without this foundation, you'll find a very difficult time moving anywhere else. So you need to now gain experience. And during this time as an associate, while you're practicing under someone else's name, under someone else's wing, try to get as much experience as you can doing things that you already have the skills or the knowledge how to do, all right? And a lot of people say, well, they don't let me, right? Well, did you ask? Did you ever come up? Did you ever have a conversation and say to your supervisor, your senior partner, whoever it is, your boss, come and say, listen, I understand that maybe I'm still young, maybe I'm not ready to do a trial, but maybe there's a case in the firm which isn't the case of the century, and maybe I can do a portion, all right? Maybe I could do an opening statement because two people can sit at a desk, right? So you might get a no for a few times, right? But at some point there's going to be some case that the partner just really doesn't care about. It's probably like not the most important case in the firm. He's going to say, you know what, this guy keeps asking me, this girl keeps asking me to do it. All right, I'll let him do an opening. Why not? I don't want to write one, and how bad can things get? It's just an opening. So now you're doing an opening. Now you've done it. You got up in front of people, you've done an opening. A deposition, it's a simple, deposition is a very critical thing in litigation. A lot of people don't realize the power of a good deposition. I love depositions. I love those more than anything in the world, because I don't have the entire courtroom set up. It's on my terms. Now the CPLR rules require the witnesses to answer pretty much everything, and the other side can object, but depositions are great. You get to really get down to the nitty-gritty, and you get to drill into the person, you get to practice your skills. You don't know what the answers are going to be sometimes, so it's a great skill. But as an attorney, have you done a deposition? If not, ask them to do one, because sometimes there's multiple depositions on the same case, and one witness is probably less important. It's probably going to be a 20-question deposition. Ask them to do that one. Say, can I ask those 20 questions? And they might say to you, why? It's just 20 questions. It's going to be 15 minutes. You do it. You ask those questions. You look that person in the eye, and you look at them and you ask those questions. You will understand that writing those questions, watching that deposition on the side, is not the same as asking those questions to a person. All right, so try that. Another important part as an associate is figuring out the practice area. So if you have this job, let's say you got this job, it's your first job out of law school, use it wisely. Don't just say, okay, I'm here to make some money, I hate this practice area, I hate this firm, I'm going to move on anyway. Use it to really X out the practice area for you. Make sure it's a done deal. So let's say you started working for a firm and they're doing something you don't really see yourself doing. Make sure that you cross this area completely off your list of things you might want to do yourself. When you cross it off, it's an important part. So you've already narrowed it down to that this area isn't for you. If, on the other hand, you love the area, hate the firm, right? That's another important part that you've gained. You've realized now that you love the practice area, you love what the firm does, you just may not like the structure or the way they handle their business. Another great plus for you. So as an associate, finding the practice area is critical. And if you find that I'm going to say this with a caveat, obviously, with this job market today, but if you find that you don't like the practice area, you don't like the firm, my advice would be start looking for a new job, Okay, don't leave that one, but start looking actively for something else. And just be a little bit more careful about the next position you choose. I mean, you need to make a living, you need to make money. But remember, you also don't want to waste time, because time is precious. Don't get stuck in a place where you know you hate the practice area, but you're just there. You don't want to practice this yourself. You hate the firm setup, but you're just going to drain this out because they give you a paycheck. All right, maybe there's some other way. Maybe you could get a second job somewhere, but just don't, maybe you could do it for a little time, but don't get stuck for 5 years in this predicament, because this is the time you cannot get back. Look at the lifestyle in the firm where you are as an associate. Look at the lifestyle of the other lawyers, the senior partners, the other lawyers practicing there. Do you like that? Talk to them about it. Talk to them about their life outside of work. If you make a connection with somebody, say, hey, listen, I know you have kids. How does that work out with this job and with this firm? I mean, how do you balance these things? You're a criminal defense lawyer. You know, you're doing arraignments on a Saturday. How do you balance that with your kid's soccer game? And you might get answers, and the person might say, oh, you know what? My wife takes care of that, or, you know, we have this, you know, we have this balance. We have this schedule that we do at home. Because this is a lifestyle that you're measuring for yourself. Is this something you want? Is this a lifestyle that you see yourself living? Financials. Look at the guys in your firm. What kind of money do they make? Do you want to do better? Do you want to do the same? Or do you not care? Do you think that they make too much money and it's excess that they spend money on? I had a pleasure of working for a guy who is one of the leading construction accident lawyers in New York. And I'm not going to name names, but that guy really lives in excess. I mean, you're talking about throwing money away on things that are just, doesn't make any sense. It's just a waste, okay? And that was a problem for me. I never wanted to do that. I figured if I ever got to that level, I'd donate that money to charity, you know, support something worthwhile. I wouldn't just blow it on things that he was blowing it on. So, you know, that's lifestyle and the financials. The environment. Look at the firm where you are. Look at the environment around you. Is this where you see yourself for the next 25, 30 years? Maybe you'll have the corner office in this firm in the future, but is this the environment you like? Is it a small elite team? Is it a big team? Is it a big corporate structure where you have offices all over the world and people come in and out, big conference rooms, things like that? Look at that. Is this a good place for you? Good environment? Now, assuming you've done all that research and assuming that you have determined that this is the firm where you want to practice and this is the area of law you want to do, okay, now you have to go to work, because if you want to get somewhere as an attorney in this environment, you have to put in a lot of work and you have to have a plan once again. You start off with your work product, delivering the best work you can. So now this is your firm, this is your area, you found your thing, you found your flow. You want to be in this firm or a firm like this firm. Your work product is going to be critical. No matter what you do with your legal career, don't ever let the legal work product you deliver suffer, because when that goes, so goes your career. Okay? So you want to focus on doing, on every case you're assigned, you want to make sure that you're delivering to the client the best work product available out there that you can do. So if you get something and you don't feel comfortable that you know what you're doing, you don't have to give it away and say, I'm going to pass on this. But you need to get help and put some time behind it and research. Let's say they gave you a motion and you've never done one before. Okay, and you feel like, I don't think I'm going to be able to write the best motion or argue the best way on this motion. You don't have to say, listen, I'm sorry, I can't do this, I've never done this before. But realize you're going to have to put some real time behind this. You're not just going to assume it's going to work out just like all your other motions. You're going to say, I'm going to put some research, I'm going to maybe go to court and see how the other lawyers are arguing this thing. But you never let the work product suffer. As an employer, the minute I see crappy work product is the minute your legal career ends for me. Okay? It's over. It's over in my firm, and there's a very big chance it'll be over anywhere else. Okay? Don't let your job as an associate in the firm, and you're measured by your work product first. Okay? Teamwork. All right, this is one of those things. I used to hear this all the time, especially I was a resident advisor in college, and this is the word team. It's one of those words I started hating afterward, team and community. But this is very important, all right? So teamwork in the firm is going to be critical, because if you're an associate, you're going to be working as part of a team. Not just lawyers, but you have people working on each case that are process servers, you have stenographers, court reporters, senior partners, tech people that are running your software. It's a whole environment. You need to learn to work as part of that team. Because if you're the guy that's outside of the team, and if you have issues with everybody else, this isn't going to lead to a successful career in that firm. Because all in all, eventually, other people on the team are going to get together and say, no, we all can work together except for this lawyer, because this lawyer always wants to do his own or her own thing, and they just don't fit into our dynamic. That message is going to be driven to your senior partner or to the partner in the firm, and these guys are going to pretty much write their emails and say, you know what, we feel like Jane is not really a team player. She doesn't know how to do anything as part of the team. We asked her to write a motion, and she just refuses, or she doesn't want to play her part. So this is going to, again, cut your career short. So learning how to work as an integral part of this team in your firm is very critical. Leadership. Now that you've learned to be part of this team, if you want to stand out from everybody else in this firm, if you actually want to go ahead and make a difference for yourself as an attorney, you're going to have to start taking leadership roles, okay? Because there are, for law firms and for employers, we actually don't really care so much one way or another if every employee becomes a leader. So, because you also need people who are not going to be leaders and going to be workers, are going to work every day and do their job and not lift their head. So, but those who take leadership opportunities are the ones that stand out to us, and they stand out to the rest of the team. Now, I don't say that taking leadership opportunities means taking over. There's a big difference, right? So you don't want to take over the case and say, now I'm in charge, I'm going to tell everybody what to do, because people are going to get really upset. What you want to do is be helpful to everyone else and offer simple things that maybe other people are not doing, like organizing things, right? So this could be done even on a case with adversaries, when you have lawyers, multiple lawyers working on a single case. Somebody has to take a lead about discovery and organizing documents and delivery of things. You be that person in your firm and in that team. You say, hey, is everybody okay with me taking the lead, contacting all the attorneys on this case and getting us all to kind of work together on the discovery, or setting up some dates, or if the case needs to be adjourned. You be that person. It's a routine, simple task that you may not consider, but that establishes you as a key person, because the partner in that firm knows on that case, John is the guy that knows what's going on. He's doing all the scheduling, all the emails go through him. He's a good guy for me to talk to about where this case is today. So these are the small leadership points that you want to start taking, but you want to do them. Personal network, and we're going to talk a lot about this as we move to solo practice, but grow your connections of people you know in the legal industry and outside. This is really going to help you, not just with this job, not just with this firm, but overall throughout your entire life. Most lawyers and most people don't realize this because you're too busy focused on things immediately in front of you. You say, well, I'm working 10-hour days. How can I build a personal network? I don't have time to eat, and I don't have time to socialize with people that I already know, my own friends. How should I be meeting new people? There's no time. Make time. Make time. Put it in your schedule. Do it once a month. Do it once a quarter. Meet new people. Shake hands. This is going to be critical to your growth in that firm. Look for opportunities. Start creating and start seeking opportunities in your firm. What are the opportunities, okay? So you work in a mid-sized firm. You look at their website and you think the website sucks. Tell them. Go over there and say, guys, you know what? I've seen some really great websites. I think that we might be losing some clients because our website looks it's from the 1980s. I think that we should rework this. I know somebody who might be able to help, but really, look at these sites and look at ours. That's creating an opportunity. Because the partners in that firm might be so set in their ways and busy with their cases, nobody's even looking at the site. No one cares about it. You be the associate that points that out. Or also create visibility for the firm. If you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, why not? Your firm doesn't have a page because the partners in the firm are 97 years old. They don't know what Facebook is still. So create a page and say, you know what, is it okay if I create this Facebook page for our firm? Because a lot of people use Facebook. I'd like to do that. Is it okay? They'll probably say, oh, we don't care, what are you going to put on it? Just, you'll say, I'll put some case results, I'll put things about our partners. That's creating an opportunity. That makes you stand out from 150 associates in that firm. You're the person that did that. You're the one that alerted them that there's something else out there. Those are opportunities. The last thing you're going to do is have to create new business. In any kind of a firm, small, medium, or large, without creating new business for the firm, if your task and if your career path ends up being a partner in that firm, and an equity partner, not a junior partner that just shares in some sort of revenue. If you want to be the big guy or a big gal in that firm, you have to figure out how to bring in new business, okay? And don't kill yourself in the beginning over this, but let this always be in the back of your mind. How do I bring business to this firm? Maybe if my dad works in a bank and my firm handles all kinds of transactions, maybe I can ask my dad to introduce or have a lunch, set up a lunch meeting between my senior partner and some VP in that bank to see if there's any chemistry. And 9 out of 10 times, you will not create any business for your firm. Don't worry about it. It's that one time that counts. The minute that you bring in business to the firm, you have now graduated from being just an ant in an ant farm to someone who stands out to that firm. You brought in money. And there's nothing that partners love that increasing revenue for their firm. And as you become a partner, you'll understand that as well. Anyone who brings $1 into the business now stands out from everyone else who writes and types motion. Even the guy that wins his trials all the time, the guy that tries all the cases in the firm and wins and wins and wins, that's great. But the partners sometimes deal with real crunch time where there is no cases to try. It's a slow month. And if there is a guy who actually brings one case into the firm, that guy might even outshine the trial lawyer that's been there for 20 years. So again, don't kill yourself. But if there is an opportunity out there to bring in business, bring it. Don't ask for your referral fee. Don't ask for a bonus. Don't ask what that's going to do for you. Don't even think about that. Just bring it and say, here it is. I work here. This is my place. So I work here, and so this is something that I'm bringing to the table. Have it. All right? That, where's my thing? Okay. Sorry, I clicked something here. Okay, so that's for associates. And this is an important part where you probably all are in this position now, or you might be getting jobs soon if you're not employed at this time. This is the associate stage that's important. Now, some of you at some point are going to think, do I really want to be an associate? Maybe I want to start my own practice. Maybe I am ready to step out there in this forest full of wolves and bears and all kinds of really, really scary animals that are ready to tear me apart, but I'm ready. I think I can run with the pack. I think I can run with the rest of them and figure things out. Well, if you want to start your own practice, you can, and you could be really good at it, and it could be very rewarding. And I'm here to tell you, I started mine only a year after graduating law school, and I would never go back. I loved every moment of it, and I would never take back my experience. However, believe me when I say, in this city, in New York, I don't know about other places, but in this city, this is a very tough jungle, okay? It's not just a jungle, it's the worst jungle. The reason why is because you're all in this room, right? You're all gonna go out there, you're all gonna try things, and there's thousands and thousands of lawyers. And everything around us changes. The way clients look for lawyers changes. The web has changed everything. So there's constant competition, constant cutthroat environment for you. You have to survive here. You have to fight for survival every day. But if you're like me, and if you get a rush out of this, then it could be the most rewarding experience for you both financially and personally and professionally, okay, on all three levels. I greatly respect a lot of the associates and a lot of people that work firm jobs for their entire career, and it's great, and again, it comes back to who you are and what you want to do. So those people are very happy with their paths, and I think that that's what they were meant to do because they found their thing. But for me, personally, I would have been miserable. And so I'm glad that I found my path to solo practice and to having my own practice, because this is the right fit for me, and this is what I was meant to do. So when you're thinking about it, and when you're thinking to yourself, well, I've been an associate for 5-7 years, I think I might ready to step out. Are you ready? Do you have the skills? We come back once again to the skills. Can't do anything without skills. There are lots of people out there you're going to see starting practices without skills, and you're going to find it very annoying to deal with them because they don't know what they're doing. It's like having a pro se litigant in a very complicated case in court. You'd rather have a good lawyer. I always say that when I had cases and there would be a pro se person, I said, my God, please give me the best lawyer. Give me a lawyer that's better than me, that's going to kick my behind, because I'd rather have that than deal with someone who has no idea what they're doing, okay? So you don't want to be that person, and I discourage you from going out there on your own if your skills are not sharp enough. If you're going to be a divorce lawyer and you've never done a divorce trial, or you've never been in family court and did a paternity test petition, or you've never did custody hearings or things like that. You've only done motions, and maybe you've worked in the office, and you may not be ready. You may not have the skills to do this. Don't go out there and try and practice on real people. It's going to backfire, okay? You're not going to be successful at building a solo practice if your results are subpar, all right? Experience. So you might have the skills, but do you have enough experience behind it? Maybe you've done only one trial and it went well, so now you feel like God and you feel like, I can have my own practice and I can do these trials every day. But you've done one, right? And it could have went either way. The next one, you may not be prepared what comes your way. So make sure that the experience is there. Business knowledge. Having your own practice is no different, like I said, than running a bagel store. You need to know how to set it up. You need to know how to be a business person. You need to be able to wear multiple hats. You need to be a lawyer and a business person and an accountant. And you need to do all these things. You need to learn about insurances. You need to learn how to read leases for your rent. There's a lot that goes in it. Do you have enough business knowledge to start a business? Forget about solo practice as a lawyer. It's a business. Do you know how to start one, and do you know what to do? Financial. Are you financially capable of starting your own practice? For the first year, you're probably going to have a hard time making positive cash flow. Are you able to support your family and support yourself? Are you going to run yourself into the ground? If you're thinking that you're going to take credit lines from banks and rely on credit cards, bad idea. It's probably going to drive you into a hole. Are you financially able to do this at the time you think it's time for you to do it? Personally, is this something you're ready to commit to? Are you personally ready for this? Because it's going to drain your nervous system like nothing ever did before, maybe only the bar exam. But this is really going to challenge you personally. There's going to be sleepless nights, worries. You're going to have good months, bad months. Clients are going to threaten to sue you. Lawyers are going to threaten to sanction you. This is now your name on the letterhead. This is all happening. Lots of stress. Are you ready? Motivation. Do you have the motivation for this? Are you driven to do this? Okay, so let's say that you've answered that this is now the time and you're ready to go, all right? Now you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this. I think I'm ready. Do you pick one area or many areas? Do you start practicing in multiple areas of law, or do you stick to one thing? Now, I will advise everybody here to try as much as you can to stick to one thing. I've done multiple things. I've picked to diversify my practice into many different practice areas, and I regret doing so. Because at the time I did this because I thought this was a great survival technique and the way to generate income, because divorce is slow in the winter but great in the summer. Bankruptcy is great after people get their tax returns, so why not kind of follow what's hot on the market today? But I would discourage that, and that was a mistake on my part. I wish that I specifically focused on one area and only stuck with that, because that's what we've ended up doing today. After 10 years later, we are focused only on 2 or 3 areas as opposed to everything else that we were doing before. So there's no harm in trying to do multiple things. You can have a multidisciplinary practice, but if you're able to focus on one area right off the bat, I would encourage doing that. In terms of office, well, you need a place to work. Is it going to be a home office, a shared suite, sublease in another firm, or your own office? There's advantages and disadvantages to each one. My wife works from home 4 out of 5 days a week. She loves it. I tried working from home one day and I almost killed myself because I couldn't stand it. I was either sleeping or eating. I couldn't do any work in between. So the home office isn't for me. Some people do it and they love it and they make it work. Maybe their family circumstances obligate them to do so, but pick what works for you. Shared suite. There are lots of these suites out here. You can rent a corporate suite with a bunch of other people. Some of them may be lawyers. It's a good idea. I think if you're starting out and if you don't have any staff, it's also, it's a good way to start. You can have a very small room, but you'll be paying, $800-900 to be in Manhattan, if that's where you want to be. So it's a good way to do this. My favorite is sublease in another firm, and I'll tell you why. This is when you'll actually there'll be another law firm that has an empty office and they'll sublease it to you. This is a great idea because of the synergy, that there's a potential for synergy with the firm. You may find, if you let's say rent space in an immigration law firm and you're doing criminal defense, there might be a flow of clients that they'll refer to you, but you're also in a very collegial environment, so the feel for you. I never liked being by myself. That was the worst part of starting my own practice. My environment is a firm environment, but as I started my practice, I lost the firm. There were no other people around me, and I was really miserable. So that's why if you like the collegial environment of lawyers, but you have a solo practice, this is a good thing to do, because these lawyers are out there. You'll see them maybe in the lunchroom, maybe you'll see them in the hallway, they'll come and say hello to you, they'll share things about their cases, but you're in this environment, so you're creating an illusion that you're part of this big firm, yet you're still running your business. And of course, if you want to, if you're ready for your own office and you have the financial means to do that, that's fine. Although again, if you're just by yourself, I'd caution against that, because you might find yourself very lonely, and it's better to have people around, even for support or just to see a face now and then. Staff. So staff in a solo practice is very tricky. Here you basically don't want to go too fast. Staff is expensive, and nobody really understands that. Nobody tells you that until you start paying taxes. So you're thinking, oh, you know what? I found this great girl. I'm going to pay her $15 an hour. This is great. $15 an hour fits into my budget. Awesome. Then you have to pay your quarterly tax. All right, and you realize $15 an hour is really $18 an hour. And now you have to write a check to the IRS, to the Department of State. And this, you didn't count for that. You didn't actually think that there's that tax to pay. Just make sure that whenever you're ready for staff, that you're counting the real expense, including taxes, including, if there's insurance that you need to provide for your staff, that there's that as well. Make sure you have a full picture, all right? I think that every lawyer, no matter if you're a solo or if you're, maybe a 2-3 attorney firm, if you have partners, you need a secretary. And this is the heart of your firm. With a good secretary, and a good secretary can make a difference between your success and failure. Why? Because when people call a law firm, and I'm a younger guy, but I have a very old soul. So I like things in terms of the legal industry the way they were. And if I could practice now and go back to the 50s, I'd be very happy if I could snap my fingers and turn the legal industry to where it was without the internet, without everything else like it was in the 50s. So you're a professional. Okay, I write about this a lot and I talk about this a lot. The legal profession is now suffering from the lack of class. People in the legal profession are now turning the legal profession into a trade where you can meet clients in Dunkin' Donuts, you can, practice without someone answering your phone professionally, your office could be in the basement somewhere. This is all wrong, okay? We are professionals. We have a higher, if we don't build out this profession to be exquisite and exclusive and valuable, then how, of course people are gonna think that we're the worst people in the world, You never hear a person saying, doctors, they're scum. Who needs them? They're horrible. We could do without them. Come on, I could just go treat myself, right? But now the dynamic is clients are walking into my office saying, you know what? You want to charge for divorce, whatever, $2,000? I'm not going to pay that. I'm just going to do it myself. Anyway, this is too expensive. I'm leaving, right? And why do they do that? Because there's all these we the people things around. There's legal Zoom and all this stuff around there, because the legal profession is losing its worth, its value, its exclusivity. When lawyers were originally in England called barristers, right? We don't think of ourselves that way. We're just workers now, just trying to make a buck. Well, you need a secretary, because this is a profession, because you have other things to do than picking up your phone. You need to sound, your office needs to sound and feel like a professional office, like a doctor's office. Doctors don't pick up their own phones unless you have their cell phone. It's an emergency, right? So why should you not have a secretary? So if you can afford, again, I come back to you being financially able to do this, but your first investment is the secretary. Now, she can also be a paralegal, and she can do many, many other things for you if you choose her or him wisely. But it's a really solid investment. And this is why it's an important one, because the first voice that the clients hear when they call is his or her voice. It's the way that person sounds that already does the 10% of the sale for your firm. They may never even hear you. They may never even meet you if the secretary is terrible. Okay? Paralegals, again, as need comes, and if you can afford paralegals when you need help on specific legal tasks in your area, yes, you can do that, but again, just be careful, beware of budgeting for that. Interns and law student volunteers, good idea. Be very careful with the law. The law now dictates that there's no such thing as unpaid interns. Interns have to be paid. Most people don't know that, and they find out the hard way. But just be very cautious of that. That law students, volunteers are great, but you got to offer credit. You got to work with the school that they get something. If you just hire a person and don't pay them, no good. You might be looking at a lawsuit, and that's not a good way to start your practice. Firm name, all right? It's your last name and the last name of people that are your partners. Okay, you can add law group, law firm, PC, associates, whatever you want. Don't call something de novo law firm if your last name is not de novo, okay? In New York, it's still unethical. People do it, but I see this all the time, like really cool names, like, Albright Law Firm, and then there's nobody named Albright, or like, in the firm, and I wonder what happened. Well, nobody enforces this rule, but don't do it. You're a professional. Once again, it's your last name. Be proud of it. This is the last name that was on the bar passage list when you passed. Don't try to combine the first 3 letters of your name and somebody else's name to come up with a cool name. Stay with tradition, okay? PC versus PLLC. Again, it's a corporate question, a question with taxes, but if you're going to have partners in your firm, you want to structure it as a PC, PLLC. I won't spend too much time, but good question to ask your accountant when you're setting this up. Your website, okay? Before the web kind of took over our existence and our presence, this wasn't really a topic that people even talked about. People said, oh, it's a good thing to have a website. Well, now, if you're going to have a solo practice, this is it. Without this, you're dead in the water. Because today, most of the transactions and most of clients search online for lawyers, they look at websites. So this is going to be your shingle, as opposed to this comes before your pretty office and the plaques on your wall that you're a super lawyer, okay? So very important to have a good website. Some things that are critical, and again, I'm not a website tech person, so I'm sure you hear a lot of lectures on that throughout your careers, but some things you must have on there is your picture, okay? Some lawyers do not. Mistake. People today expect to see who you are immediately, and they judge you based on your looks. I hate to say this, it might not be fair, but this is the way people look at professionals and hire anyone. They look at the site, they want to see who you are, they want to immediately see if there's a connection with the way you look. Because if they're looking for someone that doesn't look the way you are, the way you look, then they're going to move on. And that's fine, because you don't want them coming to your office. Because if they think you're 55 years old with gray hair and they see me, they're going to be disappointed and they're going to waste my time. I'm going to sit there and give them a consultation. They're going to say, thank you very much, Val, and walk away. Because they want a 55-year-old guy with gray hair. And that's fine. That's why my picture is there. You don't like it. You don't want to come and see a bald guy that looks like me. Okay, well then it's done. Let the next person take a look. Put the picture there. Don't be afraid. Take a good picture of yourself, a professional picture. God only knows, I see pictures on websites that don't really belong there. Even on search engines, like things like Yelp, lawyers put pictures of themselves on the beach. You know, don't do that, because that's not what people are looking for. You're not a beach model. You may be in your spare time, but this isn't what this website is geared to deliver. So put a professional picture. You know, the cameras now are very fancy. Take one, ask your friend to take one. Make sure you look good and presentable. Contact form, okay? Very important. On your website, people have to contact you. The point of your website is not to talk about how great you are, but to get people to call you and make contact with you. Okay, it's not, you can have a personal page that talks about how great you are, but that's not the page that clients should see. So the contact form is critical. It's got to be easy, it's got to be visible, it's got to be everywhere they look. So you can get one that scrolls down no matter where they scroll on your site. The contact form is always there. Client relevant information. So make sure that your website caters to the person looking at it, not to me. I might look at your website and think it's great, but I'm not looking for a criminal defense lawyer, at least thank God not today. Now, you know, if you're a criminal defense lawyer, make sure that the information on your site is actually relevant to people looking. What they want to see is the law. They want to see simple things like how many cases you won, what are they looking at, what's going to happen in their criminal case. Make sure that stuff is there. Don't put down that you're ranked by Martindale-Hubbell and all this other stuff. Great. Put that on your profile section. But what they see should be information relevant to what it is that you're marketing to them. All right? Do-it-yourself websites like Wix and Weebly services as opposed to having people build you a professional one. I personally like to do it yourselves. If you have limited knowledge about technology and web building, these sites are very simple. I like them because I have the power to change things when I need it changed. I could change it at 2 o'clock in the morning. I could change it when I need it. I don't have to call a web designer and request the change and wait for time because certain things happen fast. So it's a good start. I'm not saying that you'll end up with that site for the rest of your solo practice career, but I would say start with self-builders. Learn how to do them because you can always update because you're going to be very progressive in the beginning of your practice. Things are going to change. You're going to want to update it all the time. And if you know yourself how to do that quickly, it's going to help a lot. And then, of course, have the mobile version. Right now, on our site, 47% of searches are done on mobile phones. So you want to make sure that your website appears good on people's phones. And that could mean many things. I'm not saying it has to be mobile optimized necessarily, but you just take your phone, pretend for a second you're looking for a lawyer, load your site and see how annoying your site is to you, okay? Or give it to your friend that doesn't, just ask somebody to say, hey, listen, take a look at my site on your phone and find this, okay? Find the contact form, all right? And see how long it takes them. And if they're doing this and they're like, trying to zoom in, zoom out, and doing a bunch of things, you probably need to rework that, all right? Phone number. Vanity phone numbers like 1-800-LAWYER, 1-800-DIVORCE, and all that other stuff, forget about it. Thing of the past, don't worry yourself with it. Don't waste any money buying these numbers. Nobody uses these mnemonic things anymore because it was in the past, it's a historic thing. Some firms still have it. There's 1-800-MARGARITA, which is the famous one. I don't know if any of you know where that comes from, but I could tell you a quick story. I don't know let's see if we have time. Quick story, 1-800-MARGARITA was this firm, Trollman, Lichtman, something like that, personal injury firm. They decided to market to Spanish market for personal injury and divorce and everything else. And they only had one Spanish-speaking person in the office. Her name was Margarita. She was a secretary. So as they started marketing to the Spanish community and the trains and everything else, so people started calling, and she would pick up the phone and say, "Hola, Margarita," and then people would start telling her the problem. So soon enough, people started telling their friends and referring their friends to this firm, and they would say, "Just call Margarita," and that's what they would say, "Call Margarita," and people used to just call the firm and say, "Hi, hola, ¿dónde está Margarita?" And then this kind of stuck. And a brilliant partner in that firm picked up on that Margarita was actually a trend now. People were calling saying Margarita. So they got this phone number, 1-800-MARGARITA. And people think that it refers to drinks or something else, but it's the name of the secretary. She's no longer there, but it's the name of the secretary that was running the entire Spanish-speaking market, and that's how that stuck. All right, so don't forget about that. You don't need to find a Margarita for your law firm. Use a number, area codes in terms of like having a fancy 212 versus 646, 718. Don't concern yourself too much with that as well. People dial. Don't assume that if you have a 212 number, you get more clients than the guy with a 718. So again, you want to play with these things you can, but don't put too much effort and definitely not any money in that at all. Grasshopper is a good program that I like, a good site for phones. You can select, they have a lot of reporting, which is going to be critical for you. You need to know where your clients come from, so Grasshopper helps you identify where the calls come from and tracks them for you. They can also sell you a phone number and a virtual answering machine, so if you don't have a secretary, they can have someone answer the phone, and it's all mobile, and great website to visit if you're setting that up. Business stationery, again, don't go too crazy. Stay with the basics, with traditional thing. Don't try to reinvent the wheel and make your business card a cheese grater or anything like that. This isn't for us. We're professionals. We have to still stick to that. Use basic, raised letterhead business cards or whatever it is you want. Vistaprint is fine. People say, oh, they look cheap or whatever it is. Again, these are side things I wouldn't put too much emphasis on. If you're a professional looking business card, it's good enough. Nobody measures them or feels the type of paper it's on. I'm not crazy about those things. So, personal network. As a solo practitioner, this is going to be key. And most of you will walk out of here and not understand this, but I wish, if you take away anything from this entire lecture today, I encourage you to pay attention to this, because this is what's going to make you successful. It's not your skills or ability as a lawyer even. Sometimes it's who you know that could propel you forward. So you need to build your personal network every day if you can. If you cannot, then do it monthly, do it quarterly. But this personal network divides into two parts: your professional network of lawyers and legal professionals and the legal industry, and then everyone else. You need to build both. The more lawyers you know, the more doors can potentially open for you. Why? Because if you look for a job, you can look on Craigslist, you can look on lawjobs.com, plenty of places, right? But if I want to find a partner in this room for, let's say one of you guys is an exceptional employment lawyer, and I'm looking to start an employment law area in my firm, where am I going to go to find myself an employment law partner, right? Nobody advertises, I'm available, and I would like to be an employment law partner. This is done on a personal level. So when we shake hands and we meet, you might tell me, hey, listen, I'm an employment lawyer. I've been with this firm for 10 years. I'm looking to transition and start my own practice, maybe partner up. I'm going to say, you know what? Well, that's not a bad idea, because I was thinking about starting an employment law practice. Why don't we talk? This is personal network. It's the opportunities that are high-level opportunities. It's not just finding a job anymore. It's about finding these real opportunities that will seriously propel your career forward. And this is done on a personal level. Also, the obvious, referrals. I do business law, you do immigration. We meet. Absent us meeting, I will never send you cases. There are tech websites out there that are trying to prove me wrong now. They think that lawyers can look at other people's profiles and see how many stars are next to their name, and I'm just going to take my client that needs immigration help, and I'm going to kick him to you and refer him to you because you got 5 stars on LinkedIn. That's not going to happen. I'm never going to do that. I don't know, maybe I'll be proven wrong and these websites will succeed, but today still, every time I call and I refer a case out, it's a person I know, all right? So this personal network is going to be very critical. I'm reading the second secret code, OPE 951. OPE951. So, and I want to briefly touch, we have 10 minutes left, so I believe I didn't get to some things here, but not too terrible. So we'll go quickly. So personal network is going to be important. We have a new network called Libra Network. I'll just touch on it really quickly if you guys want to know more. Go to libranetwork.com. And what this is a network for legal professionals, and we encourage people to communicate. We do live events, we do many different programs with Libra Network, and so our whole goal and mission is to connect legal professionals in a way where it's not, there's no red tape, there are no committees for you to join, nothing else. It's focused on getting you guys together, getting you to shake hands, get to know one another, so you can help one another succeed on these different career paths that you guys are going to have. Again, check it out if you have a chance, if you're interested. So yeah, connections to other attorneys, your support, your referral, your opportunities, your social connections. You're going to find that it's very beneficial to sometimes cry to somebody and complain to somebody about a judge and have the person say to you, hey, listen, I know that judge, he really is that person that you claim he is. You know, it's beneficial, it's relief. You need that to make sure you don't go crazy and once again start hating your existence. It's a stress reliever, and other people in the legal community, all you guys in this room are stress relievers for each other, which you're going to need as you travel through your legal career. All right, social networks, very critical. LinkedIn, Facebook, I don't really do Twitter, but LinkedIn and Facebook, use them. Don't let them use you, okay? And that's really what I want to, it's a critical point. You should be present on social networks, you should be professional in them, you should join groups, post, participate in discussions. Why? That all provides visibility to you. People may not know who you are, but you might get into some interesting conversations. If you have some free time, do it. Why? Because you don't know who you're going to meet. But the key is to take those connections and make them personal. So when you're done participating in a discussion, you might want to maybe reach out to a person who you had a good conversation with, ask him out to lunch. Without making a personal connection, you're not building trust. Without trust, that person is just going to be your social network connection. We know what that means. I have about 4,000 connections on LinkedIn. I probably know about 50 of them personally. I've tried to reach out to a lot of them, and I can't because they fail to understand what I know. They just want to be my connection on LinkedIn and derive no use out of knowing me, but I could be very useful to them. And they just don't want to do it. The 100 or so people that do reach out to me and I reach out to, we network and we help each other. For your website, Google, okay, you're not going to get on the first page of Google with your website. Forget it. Nobody's going to get you on there, no matter what they promise, no matter what they sell. They might even offer their firstborn child to you if they don't succeed. Don't take that deal. It's never going to happen. Been tried and tested. Don't expect to be on the first page of Google in 6 months. All right, the SEO companies, they do work, they are helpful, but it's a time process and it's expensive, so just be mindful of that. AdWords Express, good way to get yourself out there. You're not going to be on the first page of Google's, but it's only the first page of Google where people use to find lawyers. So any way you can get on that real estate, get on it, you know. It's like the guy that stands and holds a sign on Fifth Avenue, right? They couldn't own a store or put a billboard, but the guy's there with a sign, and people that are walking up and down Fifth Avenue are still seeing that sign. Is it effective as having a flagship store? No. But are they still getting clients? Yes. Why? Because the guy still stands there and they pay him, and it works. Same thing here with AdWords. You may not be getting all prime contacts, but you're still there, you're still going to get business. Keywords, budget, again, this is, you might talk with internet people and tech people, they might help you with that. Bing, Yahoo, I'm not a big fan, I think a lot of the traffic is through Google. Avolawyers.com, FindLaw should be supplemental. Those are expensive, and again, you're going to be in this list of many, many lawyers. So, use that as your budget grows in your firm, because those are not going to be effective immediately. Radio, TV, and print, though that media is somewhat dying out, but there's still some good opportunities. I forgot to put buses. Some bus opportunities, advertisement on buses is effective. Again, more for branding than for direct response. But there are some good opportunities, but although I would focus my energy if I was starting today on the web and on the website. Leads, track your sources, track where your calls come from. It's the holy grail of running a business. You need to know what works. If your secretary isn't asking the question and you're not following up when you meet that client in person where they found you, you're wasting your money on advertisement that may not even work for you. Free consultation, should you give them, should you not? I like free consultations for certain areas, I don't like it for others. I think areas where people have an immediate need and areas are very emotional, like matrimonial law, divorce law, we do give free consultations for those areas. For business law, we do not. But for the difference being, I feel like these people need help and you're just sharing some advice, you're sharing some information. As a lawyer, I think that's your duty to do that. For business people, if they're coming in and they want me to review a 60-page contract, obviously there's no way of doing that for free. Retainer agreement, always have one, always sign one. Do not take anybody's money until you have their signature on a retainer agreement. If you do that, you're in trouble because there's millions of situations, which I don't have time to go over, where you're going to be in hot water if there's no clear retainer agreement. It should say hourly rates and fees. You should be very specific. Payments, I'd like to get, my advice, if you could stay away from payment plans, stay away from them. Make sure if you're a lawyer, you're running your own practice, ask the client to pay up front and then tell them, if there's an unearned portion of the balance will be returned. If the case goes faster, we will refund the money, no worries there. But make sure you get paid up front because as you enter into all these payment plans, you'll realize things happen to people and you'll be the first one not to get paid. Malpractice insurance. You need to have one when you're starting out. It's a definite must, especially if you're just starting your practice. Don't even think about it. The expense of the malpractice insurance will save you from hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal costs, so definitely buy one. It will be somewhat expensive when you start, but it will give you a peace of mind that you're somewhat protected, so definitely something you must have. At the end, I just want to tell you guys, I know my time is up here. I just want to emphasize one thing. I know that our profession, and as attorneys, we're now not in the best place, our industry, our job market, but this is all subject to change, and the people to change it is us. If we don't hold ourselves out to be professionals, and if we don't practice law the way it was meant to be practiced, and if we start slacking and doing things, it now puts down everyone. And I could tell you that the partners in big law firms are very concerned about the things you guys all are going to be doing because your actions affects the entire legal community. So I don't think that just because you're going to be a good lawyer and someone else is going to be doing something different, that it's not going to affect you. It will. It's an effect that's felt over time, but it is felt. We can raise this industry. We can make it to be what it was, a respected profession where people didn't make fun of us and make jokes about us, where people felt like going to a lawyer is something that's necessary, and everybody felt like they must know a good lawyer because they need one. We want to preserve that value because if we don't do it, the outside world isn't going to help. We don't want to turn law schools into one-year trade schools. Some people are pushing for law school. Our president is pushing for law school to be 2 years. They want to simplify or get rid of the bar exam. I mean, what's next, right? I'm just going to sign an application and say, all right, now I'm a lawyer. We don't want to do that. We want to preserve this profession and preserve our value. Because if we don't do it and we don't act this way, then we're going to slowly turn this into some trait that people make fun of all the time. And now law schools are seeing a decline in admissions. And this is going to continue. People don't want to be lawyers anymore, but the world needs good lawyers, right? So I encourage all of you to, as you take on this journey into your careers, preserve the profession, protect it, and practice the way you really want to and meant to practice. All right? Thank you.